Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good day and you're all staying safe. A few people have asked me why they are struggling to sleep, and it's quite a common complaint right now with some of the other clients that I've spoken to. And I think this video will be really helpful for you to understand why that is. So, basically, our brain and body has a certain capacity for stress, how much we can handle. And throughout the day, with all of the stimulation, with all of the news, with all of the movies and games and scrolling through Facebook and everything else, every time that we have a fearful thought, or we play a scenario in our head, or we are just stressed by our environment, we are basically accumulating and storing that stress up throughout the day. And we only have a certain amount of capacity for that before it becomes quite unhealthy, and then people can have, serious breakdowns and things like that. Now, thankfully, we've got a natural method for emptying that bucket of stress, if you like. And that is when you go to sleep at night, your brain has different sleep cycles. All right, so you start by relaxing, and then you go into the REM cycle, then you get some deep sleep, and then it repeats about 4 or 5 times. Now, if you have been really stressed out, overstimulated, you're not doing anything to sort that out, then what will happen is your brain has to work overtime to try and empty and get rid of that stress at night. Now, the problem with that is that so basically, the thing that's going to unload the stress, what's happening is, during your REM cycle, now REM stands for rapid eye movement, or dreaming is probably what you'll know it as. And what's going on there is your brain is rerunning the events of the day, and it's changing them from an emotional memory that we're fully in and associated to, as if that's happening to us right now, and it changes it to a narrative. It's like we take a step out and we see ourselves in it and we process it. They've actually discovered now in certain animals, like I think rats, that at night our brain runs backwards, and it's actually processing, understanding and rerunning it, and desensitizing and emptying that stress. So the problem is we only have a certain amount of REM that we can do, because it becomes too much. So what's going on is all of that stress is stored in that emotional center of the brain, which I keep banging on about, and it then gets moved up gradually, one sort of memory or one piece of information at a time, to the front bit where you've got control over it, you process it, you sort it out, you run it. Now, what will happen is one of two scenarios here. If you've got a lot of stress, and most people have right now, either once it's kind of said, right, I can't handle anymore, because it takes a lot of energy to move it and process it and do all of that stuff. If your brain goes, right, I've had enough, I can't handle it, it's going to wake you up, and it's going to stop you from going back to sleep. Now, if you don't understand what's going on in your brain, that's going to be really annoying. That's going to be really frustrating. It's going to be confusing. You don't know why this is happening, and you'll try anything, and of course, what does that do? That stresses you out. So that's one thing that can happen. The other thing that can happen is you might sleep, but when you wake up in the morning, you feel absolutely exhausted. It's almost like you haven't had any sleep at all. And the reason for that is because you've been stuck in the REM cycle all night. Now, the REM cycle is designed to process and emptying that stress from your brain, but the deep sleep in the cycle is what is actually healing and restoring the body. So if you've been stuck in the REM cycle all night and you haven't had any deep sleep, then your body's going to be exhausted because you haven't had any rest. Now, of course, again, if you don't understand that, when you wake up and you get the next day, you will feel miserable. You will feel like you haven't had any sleep, and that will stress you out, and then this will become a cycle, because the more stress that you've got stored, the more time you're going to spend in this part of your brain down here, which is that emotional negative survival mode center of the brain. So the more you're down there, the more you're going to look through see the world through a lens of all that negativity and stress. You're going to create more stress. You're going to keep filling up your capacity, and this cycle is going to go around and around. It's going to keep interrupting your sleep. So what's the answer? The answer is, this is why I keep banging on about doing some exercise. The fastest way to burn stress is doing exercise, because when you do exercise, it burns stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. It works those out of your system. Also, you can start to meditate and do some of the techniques I put in the previous video, because what that's doing is it's emptying your stress while you're still awake, so that you're not just relying on your sleep cycle. So there's all kinds of techniques you can do. Meditation that's why it's so essential. And there's also a lot of benefits within that as well. But exercise especially, not only is it burning stress hormones, it's actually going to create in the chemistry lab in your brain chemicals that are going to make you feel good, like serotonin and dopamine and endorphins and oxytocin, which is why a lot of doctors encourage people with depression to exercise, because it actually creates. So if you're getting antidepressants, that's basically serotonin tablets. So your body can create its own serotonin when you do things like exercise. So this is why I suggest you get outside. I suggest you do some exercise. I suggest you don't watch the news. I suggest you do techniques and meditation to reduce that. And also you can listen to some of the relaxation tracks I've got on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook page, or if you don't know where those are, it's the Liberated Mind UK, or just I can put some links. I'll put some links. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put some links under the video here, which will include a blog which I've written about sleep and various different things that you can do to encourage yourself to sleep. Getting vitamin D is another one that's going to help you sleep, getting some sun. So I'll do that, and I'll put maybe a link to a track to listen to when you go to sleep. So this is why it's so important to rest and de-stress and get outside and not obsess about things that are going to make you feel bad, because what you're doing is you're piling on more stress. It doesn't matter how much you think about something negative, it's not going to change it, because it's out of your control. And just being okay with it being out of your control right now, and trusting that things are actually being done and dealt with, and they're improving. And if you're looking in the right places and not the mainstream media, you will notice that actually there is a lot of good news out there. This is bringing people together. Some countries are starting to relax the social distancing. Yes, we've been given another 3 weeks, but as far as I can see, that's another 3 weeks of opportunity. And some people will say, well, that's all right for you. Well, actually, financially, that's terrible for me because I'm really down to only a couple of clients right now, and I still haven't had any kind of money from the government. And that's fine. Like, I can't be kicked out. I have a mortgage to pay. I've just had to put that on holiday for 3 months. So look, what I'm saying is it's not all rosy for me, but I know how the brain works, and I sleep like a baby, right? And the reason I do that is because of everything else that I'm doing during the day. I'll also put another link to my Survive the COVID-19 lockdown, because within that there's loads of tips. There are 2 tracks that you can listen to, one during the day, one at night. So look after yourselves. Don't just keep stimulating and watching things that aren't helpful and then wondering why you can't sleep. There's so much you can do. Use this as an opportunity and start focusing on things. Maybe not screens. I know that's ironic because I'm posting something on a screen, but just, read or go outside, go in the garden, do something different, and just notice how you start to calm down a little bit. All right? Take care of yourselves.